games. They're cool. They don't melt your brain, and they have some great stories in them. Hello, welcome to the Ponderings of Pete. Specifically, I am Pete. I am your host tonight. I am a booktuber that talks about fantasy, sci-fi, and some other random stuff like video games occasionally, just to confuse the algorithm. But I'm still trying not to confuse it too much by mentioning books in the title. So, what did you come here for? You came here to talk about some video games? I play some video games occasionally. I dabble. And, I've had a lot of video games on my mind lately. I recently have been playing a lot of a very specific pirate game that's been out for a hot minute. And there's another game that comes out at midnight tonight, aka like 2.5, 3 hours from now, that by the time this video comes out tomorrow morning, I will have played probably 48 hours of. We'll see. Depends on how long the monster lasts. So I figured I'd do something like this because video games are on my mind. So, let's talk about some great stories in video games that I'd love to see in books. Now, parameters. For the games that I haven't played, I'm not really going to mention them. If there are games that you really think would make great books, put them down in the comments. So, without further ado, let's get into this. First one I want to talk about is the super obvious one in my opinion, and that is Assassin's Creed. Reason this is super obvious, there's actually already books out for this one. I have not read any of them, but I'd like to once my physical TBR kind of stops being an avalanche. But I definitely want to read them at some point. I'm going to pop up some covers here. I think there's quite a few Assassin's Creed books. Assassin's Creed is such an interesting franchise because it's kind of it's definitely an alternative history franchise. And you, as the main character, sometimes you're playing a guy named Desmond Miles, sometimes you're just playing a random person. You go back into the memory that is in your DNA, and you play as an assassin, because obviously you are the lineage of assassin, as the main character. It's a dope series. It's kind of violent because you're an assassin, of course. There's some really interesting stories. There's a little bit of sci-fi mixed in there. If you haven't heard of these games, definitely check them out. Check out their stories, just because there are some good ones, and there's a lot of history attached to them that they try to weave in that is really fascinating in a lot of the games. The next one, I'm going to put my Mimi one out of the way, and that is Mario. The Mario franchise, whatever you want to call it. This would make a really good, actually not book. I would make this a serialized newspaper literature. This would be something like, Sanderson made Allomancer Jack for Era 2. Dickens originally wrote this way, but I don't think Mario would fit like Dickens, but it would be great, really easy to serialize it, just like Super Mario Brothers, or just any of the Mario games where there's levels, there's worlds, etc., and you go from place to place. You could easily turn that into a story and serialize it, and I think people would eat it up. Maybe we would get an origin story for the man, the myth, the legend, the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned, Waluigi. I think this would be an excellent place to bring that out. But of course, newspaper serials aren't things that happen. Also, it'd be really easy to bring in Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, all that jazz. You could make some really interesting stories if you serialized it. All the attempts I've seen of making stories out of Mario has been kind of weird, with the exception of maybe Subspace being the storyline for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I haven't played the storylines in the other Super Smash Bros., but I thought that was a pretty interesting Mario and company based storyline, despite having no voice acting at all. So, cool. What is up next? We have Uncharted. This is the one movie I just came from. It was pretty good. I liked it. I think there's definitely thoughts knocking around in my brain that have to develop a little bit more, but I liked it at a first pass. It has been a while since I've played the first one. This is the one that back when I didn't think I was going to get any more gaming systems, I watched a run through of all the games on YouTube. Kind of shameful. I'm working on actually playing the games now because I really do like these storylines. I think they're awesome. So seeing it in a movie was great, and I think they would make some really good books as well. I just really like that genre of discovery fiction. I don't know, treasure hunting fiction, whatever you want to call it. It's sad that we don't see more now, but it's understandable based on where our interests and how the world feels in today's day and age. And that's a whole nother interesting topic. So, Uncharted, if you didn't know, is similar to Indiana Jones and the first one, which is Lara Croft, the original. Because Lara Croft became before Indiana Jones, I'm pretty sure. You are a professional person that goes and looks for treasure out in the world. And the basis of this is the concept of what I would call the big world mentality. A lot of these were great when the world still felt big. Now that our world feels small, these aren't as popular because the suspension of disbelief that is needed is a lot more. Just because of the nature of these things. Like even just watching Uncharted, like the way things are typically hidden, it's like, oh, you could have probably figured that out with just some satellite images, yo. We have those. When the world is big and there are undiscovered lands and undiscovered places in the world, undiscovered nooks and crannies specifically, if we're talking about Tomb Raider or Indiana Jones and Uncharted, the thought process of exploring and finding great treasure in them is fascinating. But when the world feels small and like everything's been already found, it is hard for that to take hold if you don't have that sense of wonder that comes with the big world thought process of like, oh, there's so many things to explore. I'd actually like to do a research paper on that because that'd be really interesting just to look into that specific type of story, this genre, when it was popular, when it had its heyday and all that jazz. So yeah. All right. Next up, and by the way, I don't think I've said this, but these are in no particular order. Except for the last one. I'm saving it for last because I want to save it for last. Adventures of Van Helsing. I played through the first game, and these are really cool. So this video game is about a monster hunter, specifically the son of the original Van Helsing that popped up in Dracula, if I remember correctly, and his ghostly companion. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name, and I'm so sorry because she's great and very sassy. So it's a monster hunter and his sassy ghost companion. It's like a top-down, kind of like Diablo. Really great RPG. Really love the concept. You are going back to, not Transylvania, gosh, Barovia, that's it. You're going back to Barovia, which is an Eastern European place, generic Eastern European place, that actually Katerina, the ghost name, she actually hails from. Got a letter calling for help. And instead of fighting a lot of the monsters, you actually have to fight a mad scientist. This isn't like your classic monster hunter. This is like mad scientist craziness. And it's really cool. It gets very steampunky and like there's really cool gadgets. And just with the classes and everything, I loved it. But I think this would make a really, really interesting monster hunting type of story or just general rebellion type story as well due to the nature of some of these things. Check that game out. Great story in there. Sassy Ghost Companion. Next, this is a big franchise, but I'm going to specifically talk about Far Cry 5. This currently is the only Far Cry I have played. I have a few others that I've been meaning to play, but I haven't played all of them yet. I have 4 in Primal, and I want to play 6 just because that looks super cool. But Far Cry 5 was like super really interesting vibe. Just like the storytelling in 5 was really, really good, talking about the different, this is about a cult in the middle of America that is, a doomsday cult. And you're basically just taking them out because, well, they're trying to take over this valley and set up, saying doomsday is coming. It was just so interesting, the different sections of the cults and how they brainwashed people, how they forced people into the cult, how they just, everything that they did was super psychologically fascinating, and it was dark and wild. Needless to say, I liked it. I'd like to see it in a book just because it would make a great, psychological thriller based on a lot of the storyline. Another one, this one's a good one. Dishonored, which is an assassin story, which is in the best I would describe it is whale punk, if that makes any sense. So, Moby Dick and the whole whale hunting stuff. Imagine an entire culture built around whale hunting and the oil from the fat and whale hunting and some other weird stuff. Like, it's dark, it's dingy, it's decrepit, there's whale bones everywhere. Super interesting. And like mythology built around whales as well in a weird way. But there's magic and some other interesting stuff. This story, I've only played the first one of this one. Again, I have the other ones, but it's like backlog. But oh my gosh, guys, this was such a good story about people just trying to take over the government. And you're having to, be accused of killing somebody. So you have to redeem your name by killing more people. Because you're an assassin. And there's magic involved. Definitely check this out if you really want a good, kind of revenge assassin story. But I think it would make a super great, dark assassin book. I wouldn't make it YA though. That'd be like terrible. Don't do that. Just go full grimdark. This would be a great grimdark assassin book. Oh, another. So this game, I'm kind of like on the fence about making this a book because a lot of this game is like the visual medium of this game is great and the way the story is told is so good. But I just want to mention this, and I think it might make a great book, but it definitely is better in the medium that it is, which is like a classic, very little action RPG video game, and that is Disco Elysium. So this game sometimes feels like an acid trip, sometimes feels like a weird political manifesto, and sometimes just feels like a noir film. Because that's what it is. You are a alcoholic detective that is trying to solve a murder. And there are high tensions, there's a union, you have to examine the body, there's kids throwing rocks at the body. The tensions are high. Like there's a strike going on and you have to delve around this murder of this random dude and figure out everything. And everything is so intricate and woven together. And it's classic RPG, choose your own adventure. Like you can literally, like, there's different endings to the game based on your actions. You can make your partner hate you or really like you. You can be a communist, you can be a fascist, you can be a moralist, you can go on a vision quest for all of these political parties, which is super interesting because it doesn't hold back about exploring these things. Which is super cool. Because, like, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, politics ruin the video games. But, like, the decisions you make that might, align with certain political parties actually, like, dives deep into the implications of that. It dives deep into your psyche. You can be an apocalypse cop, an art cop. It's wild. And, like, the different attributes you have, like, speak into your head, which is super cool. Like, they personalized it. And the final cut with all the voice acted stuff, it's just super beautiful. It's one of those games that's not like a super, super happy game all the time, most of the time, but like it really makes you think and really just explores so many interesting things. A lot of the vibes are very chill. Like the music, the score, could listen to that for a while. Like I could go to sleep to a lot of that music, and I'm just saying that in a good way. Like a peaceful, really good stuff, but there's undercurrents of so many interesting things in the music. Anyways, I'm gonna stop gushing in an incomprehensible way now. Disco Elysium, cop, noir, detective story, but a lot more. And the next one is the one that I've been playing a lot of over the past 3 to 4 weeks. That is Sea of Thieves. This is a pirate game. I love pirate games. I just love the pirate vibe. This scratches that pirate itch for me. There are some form of shanties and music. Not as good as Assassin's Creed 4, though, I will say. That is where they are very lacking. But you're a pirate. You get to captain your own ship and go places and with your friends. Really great game. There's some lore to this game that they're trying to do more with just what they're putting into the game. There's really not like too much. They recently had a collab with Disney, actually, and put like Jack Sparrow and a bunch of other Pirates of the Caribbean stuff in there, which is great. Really fleshed out the game from what I can tell. And there actually happens to be audiobooks already that are out there, which is wild. I just discovered that recently, but I'd love more. It'd be really cool. Just because, like, pirate books are great. If there's pirate stuff in the book, unless it's a really bad book, it's likely that I'll like the book. Do pirate stuff well, I will love the book. I'm reading a book now that kind of scratches that itch too, which is great. You'll probably hear about my wrap up a little bit. All right, best for last. Honestly, in my opinion, the best for last. And this is the game that is coming out in probably 2 hours by now. Yeah, 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours till I get to play this game. And that is the Horizon series. So we have Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, which is the newest one, the second one. Guys, this game, it's definitely like Zero Dawn is probably one of my favorite games of all time, if not the favorite game I have of all time. So beautiful. The combat's amazing. And evidently it's only supposed to be better than the second one, which is great to hear from what I've seen. And it's great. This story is relatively dystopian. This is in a post-apocalyptic world where humans are re-emerging after a long something, as you can tell, because there are machines that are things like dinosaurs, and there are people that look like barbarians, essentially. And you add in machine parks, and the world building in this game is absolutely phenomenal. Like, beautiful. You have messages from the past. You have all this stuff. You piece together what happened, all this other jazz. Oh, it's great. Beautiful story that I can't really tell you that much about other than it's post-apocalyptic, and that kind of fills you in. The reason I love this story is it's post-apocalyptic is very hit or miss. Because a lot of post-apocalyptic games or stories really hit on environmentalism a lot. And I think that's been overdone at this point. See Biomutant, where this game is so over the top with environmentalism that I just want to like it turned me off from it, because it's like, oh yeah, these evil guys just decided to dump all their nuclear waste in the ocean, and it like just destroyed everything, and they didn't care about anybody. Aha. It was so over the top. Everything was so in your face. The writing in that game was terrible too. Anyways, we're not talking about that game because it's stupid. But yes, there is still a core of like, humans were terrible and destroyed things, and that's a legitimate core. But it didn't go over the top with trying to preach to you essentially about it. It was really, really good, because just the story was amazing. So I'm going to go edit this video now. 2.5 hours. I'm going to be done with this video. And you will see this tomorrow morning on Friday. But yeah, in the meantime, I probably won't get any sleep. We'll see. I'll probably put a comment, see if I got any sleep between now and then. Like if you like this video, dislike if you didn't like it. Do you have books? Do you have books? Do you have video games that you like to see books? Because that'd be great. Link them down below, or tell me about them down below or whatever. Thank you so much for watching. Get some rest, because I won't. Have a great night.